Hello and welcome back to Football League World TV. It's time for this week's EFL London Roundup show. I'm your host, George Dagless, and joining me this week are Chris Thorpe and Billy Mulley. Chris, how you getting on?
Yeah, not bad, George. Not too bad, mate.
Good stuff. Billy, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, mate. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Looking forward to this week's show. So we're here live for the next 20 or so minutes talking all things EFL football related to the clubs in the capital. And given the fact that the deadline has just passed in the transfer window, we're going to reflect on that first of all. And we start with the men from Craven Cottage, Fulham. So it was a busy deadline day in the end for Fulham. Right towards the end of the window, they announced Nathaniel Chalobah and Domingos Quina. Almost a little bit of a surprise, really. Few really expected those two players to come in, but they did. They've joined the Fulham squad. Obviously, a very strong team even before those arrivals. They're looking even better after the international break when it ends. Chris, what do you make of these two arrivals? I think Chalobah in particular is a real standout name to come into the Cottage.
Yeah, I like Chalobah a lot. Good, solid sort of championship level player. Probably would get into most, lower league, Premier League sides, I would say, to be honest. I'm sort of surprised Watford let him go, considering Will Hughes was also sold to Crystal Palace. So a bit of a strange decision from them there. And then with Quina, he's obviously a bit younger. I think he's only 21. Can play in a variety of different positions, so deeper line in midfield or the number 10 or either side on the flank. So I think that will really fit into the sort of style that Marco Silva's employed there. And obviously, with him having been at Watford before, I assume that they've worked together as well, which should help. So, some interesting signings. And, it'd be interesting to see how they get on.
Definitely. I mean, Chalobah for me is a real standout of the whole deadline, really, in the Championship. Billy, what do you make of this signing? You look at the midfield talent that Fulham have got. There's so many good players in there. Is Chalobah someone that you can see coming straight into the starting 11, or potentially he's going to have to bide his time a little bit to get involved in the first team?
As you say, he's a standout signing from this window, and Fulham already possess a lot of talent in midfield. So saying that he'll go straight into the team is difficult to say because, of course, he is of that talent. As Chris says there, he could be operating in the Premier League, but they do have some brilliant options there. So it's going to be interesting to see if Silva plays him from the start or if he tries to gradually bring him in. And I think he sort of brings in exactly what Anguissa has left now he's departed. I think the fact that he can operate both as a holding midfielder and as a box-to-box player means that Silva has more options in that regard to any tactical shifts that they might go for. And with Chalobah as well, I'm so surprised that Watford have let him go. I know they've recruited well in midfield areas this summer, but he's a player that should be at Premier League level, in my opinion.
Well, Fulham obviously hope that potentially they can offer him that next season, but we'll see what happens. You mentioned as well Anguissa there, Billy. Obviously, he's moved to Napoli. The deal went through on deadline day. It's a loan, but there is a view to a permanent deal there. Do you think we've seen the last of him in a Fulham shirt?
Yeah, it's always hard to say with these loans to the top tiers. We've seen it before. We've seen it with Stoke last season with Atebo, and we've seen it quite often elsewhere as well. And it just never seems to work out after they return for whatever reason. If he goes on and shines for Napoli, and then that seems it. But yeah, I don't think if Fulham are a Premier League club next season, then there is scope for that. But if they don't manage to secure promotion, I cannot see Anguissa playing in the Championship.
Okay, well, even so, very good window for Fulham, and obviously a very, very good squad they've got put together there. They'll be confident of challenging for promotion for the rest of the season. Another team that started really well, a QPR, and come to them now and look back at their deadline day. Now, the Hoops managed to bring in Andre Gray towards the end of the window. It was widely reported that was going to be the case anyway, and it was confirmed on the final day of the market. Chris, Gray joins from Watford on loan, going to supplement the attacking options they've already got in Charlie Austin and Lyndon Dykes. How good a sign do you think this is going to be? And is he someone that's going to come in again straight away and start, or potentially he's going to have to bide his time as well?
I think he might have to bide his time initially. Obviously, a very good option. Had good experience of scoring goals at Football League level. hasn't really hit it off at Watford since getting his big move there. So this is a chance for him to sort of rediscover himself under a manager who obviously knows him well from their time at Brentford together. So yeah, it'd be interesting. I think he sort of supplements what they have in Lyndon Dykes and Charlie Austin quite well. So it'd be interesting to see if he can form a partnership with one of those guys. But yeah, no, big season ahead for him, especially if he wants to prove that he can still cut it at a really good level. So yeah, it'd be interesting.
Now, obviously, one attacker that did leave QPR at the end of the window, Charlie Kelman. Gray's arrival obviously sort of freed up that opportunity for the youngster to go out on loan. He's heading to Gillingham in League One. Billy, this is surely a good opportunity for him.
Yeah. But I mean, we've seen at the end of last season that he got a little bit of game time and showed that he's got the quality, got sort of what it takes in the future to become a QPR player. But yeah, at this point, a low move to a decent Gillingham side under Steve Evans is a really good move. I think if he's afforded the game time that he is perhaps promised and should deserve from what he's shown so far, then I think it's a very good move for all parties involved and could perhaps become in contention for their squad next season.
One other permanent exit that was confirmed for QPR on deadline day right at the end was Todd Kane. It was widely expected that he was going to leave, and he's joined Coventry City on a permanent basis. Chris, there's probably not too much surprise around this one, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the incident with Kai where he sort of, slagged him off for want of a better phrase. When you're doing that to your teammate, you haven't really got a future at a club, and it's no surprise that they binned him off after that. So yeah, it's the best thing for all parties that he's moved on to Coventry.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair enough assumption there, Chris. It looked like potentially his time at QPR pretty much comes to an end towards the end of last season, and obviously so it's proven with him moving to Coventry. So we'll see how he does there. Right, we'll move away from QPR and we'll head to the New Den and talk Millwall. The Lions had perhaps a slightly quieter deadline day than the two clubs we've already touched on in this show. Shea Ojo did arrive, though, on loan from Liverpool. Billy, what do you make of this one? Ojo's a player we've seen in the Championship before on loan from Liverpool at various different clubs. He's shown flashes of what he can do, but perhaps not on a consistent enough basis. And that perhaps is why he's not earned a permanent move away from Liverpool yet either. So what can we expect from him for the Lions this season?
I think what you say there in the consistency factor is massive with Ojo. From my experience of watching him against Luton, he's always been brilliant and a star man. But as you say, his sort of game time last year decreased. He didn't have as much influence as he did at the start because it was an excellent start to the campaign for him. I think now it's moving to Millwall takes a little bit of the creative pressure, I should say, off Jed Wallace. Obviously, he's been creating and scoring goals for Millwall for so long now, and it's now like he's got someone there who can sort of provide a similar service to him in terms of contributing opportunities and goals in general. I think that I'm still surprised he's on the books at Liverpool. He's one of those players, a little bit like Izzy Brown at Chelsea, where you don't think he's got a future there, but then again, he could go and surprise us and use this move to Millwall to really showcase what he's all about and maybe pave his way into Liverpool's setup in the future.
One exit, obviously, from Millwall at the end of the market was Marlon Romeo. There's a little bit of a battle between Portsmouth and Ipswich. Portsmouth have got him on loan. It looked like he'd kind of really fallen out of favour at the Den towards the end, or towards the end of this particular spell. Millwall can obviously go back there, given that he's only away on loan. Chris, are you particularly surprised by the fact Millwall have been willing to let him go? I mean, you look at the team and really that they have kind of got cover for him now, and as it's shown in their lineup so far this season, they've been quite happy to sort of play basically without him in the team.
Yeah, no. As soon as I saw the initial report of him being linked to Portsmouth, I was very confused. Obviously, been a regular there for a good few seasons since he moved there from Gillingham, and just didn't expect it at all. And yeah, it's bizarre, really. I don't know whether Portsmouth are going to look at maybe getting him permanently if he does well there or not, or whether Rowett still sees them as a part of his plans moving forward. But yeah, really strange turn of events, and I think there'll be a lot of Millwall fans that aren't very happy about that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's every chance it'll be one of the sort of standout players for Portsmouth this season in League One. Obviously, they'll be looking to get themselves into the Championship by the end of this season. Speaking of League One, we'll drop into the third tier now, and we'll get to Charlton's deadline day. The Addicts, happily enough for their fans, were busy towards the end of the window. It was a bit of a frustrating market for large portions, and perhaps not bolstering the squad as much as they would have liked before the start of the campaign. But towards the end of the window, they've made some pretty decent signings. Obviously, Elliot Lee already had come in the days before the deadline. And then with the hours ticking down, Harry Arter and Jonathan Lecco joined on loan, while Sam Lavelle arrived from Morecambe on a permanent deal. Three pretty eye-catching signings, I think it's probably fair to say. Chris, let's come to you first of all with the two loan arrivals. Harry Arter in particular, coming in from Nottingham Forest on a temporary basis. This could be a really good signing for them, surely.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there would have been, I'm sure, maybe a couple of Championship clubs that would have looked at him and thought, oh, maybe we can get him on loan from Forest, but obviously it wasn't to be. He's obviously gone to a club that's going to be fighting for promotion, League One, most likely. Things haven't really clicked for them that much so far, but I'm sure his addition, along with Lecco coming in, will really help them. Some good experience in there, some good leadership qualities as well. Arter's a great character to have around the dressing room. Brilliant bit of business from Charlton to bring those two in, for sure.
I mean, Lecco has obviously been at Charlton before on a temporary basis, did really well there in the short time he was there. Unfortunately, picked up an injury, sort of curtailed the stint he had at the Valley. Lee Bowyer obviously worked with Lecco at Charlton, has been with him at Birmingham too. Do you think Bowyer just thinks maybe a spell back in League One will sort of, I guess the phrase I'd use with Lecco is perhaps a little bit undercooked for Championship football. So does Lee Bowyer think this is a good finishing school for him to move to Charlton and play regular football in the third tier?
Yeah, most definitely. I think moving back to somewhere you're so familiar with can only be a good thing. And I completely agree with you. What you say about him not really being good enough for the Championship. He's never been that consistent in his career, but he's still played quite a lot of games here and there, obviously in between having injuries, which hasn't helped him. If he can get a good run of games at Charlton and start scoring some goals and maybe getting some assists depending on where they play it, I think it'd be really good for him. And you never know, he might go back to Birmingham and get in the team under Bowyer. So yeah, can only be a good thing for him, I think.
Yeah, certainly a talented boy, and with some of the attacking players Charlton do have now, hopefully he can, find a bit of rhythm. Speaking more defensively now, touch on Sam Lavelle, arrived from Morecambe. Billy, what do you make of this one? Charlton have got some decent centre halves, and likes of Ryan Innes, Akin from Mayo, who also joined on loan earlier in the window, and obviously Jason Pearce, the skipper's still there. Where can you see Lavelle fitting in?
Well, it's still an exciting sign, and as you say, they've got some good defensive options as it is. But I think what Lavelle brings is sort of leadership at such a young age. He's a calming influence in possession as well, and he's also a bit more of a physical presence as well. I know he's only 24, and that can only grow, but it's a definitely exciting signing for the Addicts, and I think I was quite surprised actually that he wasn't looked at higher up into the Championship. I think quite a lot of sides could have done with a player coming through like Lavelle. I can see him starting quite regularly. He might need to bide his time at the start and sort of grow into that role. But it's definitely a really good signing for the Addicts, and one that the longer it went on deadline day, I just didn't think they were actually going to go through with it.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair enough. Mark's got in touch. Just a quick line on Jonathan Lecco. Loan move good for all parties. He's thinking he will come good this season under Nigel Adkins. Obviously, Lee Bowyer in Birmingham will hope too. Okay, let's move away from Charlton, but keep in League One. And we'll just touch on AFC Wimbledon, who unfortunately, perhaps for Chris, did have a little bit of a quiet deadline day. Yeah, so Chris, we'll come to you. Obviously, resident Wimbledon fan.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, a bit of a quiet deadline day. But what did you make of the market overall for the Dons?
To be honest, didn't expect us to do too much on deadline day. Robbo did say that we might get one in if we had the funds available, but ultimately we didn't, and that's why we didn't get one in. But yeah, no, market overall, really, really pleased with it. Got some exciting young talent in. Henry Lawrence from Chelsea on loan is a great signing. He's already settled in well at League One level in what is his first taste of senior football. And then you got Luke McCormick, who obviously done really well at Bristol Rovers last season, and he's already got a goal and a couple of assists already. So yeah, no, they're settling in well. Aaron Presley, who we got on loan from Brentford, he's got one goal to his name so far. It's maybe taken a little longer to sort of settle in, but I'm sure he's going to start hitting the back of the net sooner or later. And then Darius Charles is obviously another one to mention. Back for his second stint with the club, very experienced pro. He's been signed more to be a sort of voice in the dressing room than actually playing regularly. But I think that role suits him really well because he wants to go into coaching. So yeah, looking at it overall, we're very pleased. And yeah, hoping for a good season. We started pretty well, so long may it continue.
Okay, yeah, we'll see how the Dons get on. We're going to keep with a slightly Wimbledon themed bit for our next section as we move on to Leyton Orient. And the O's managed to bring in a former Wimbledon player who, Chris, I'm sure you'll be familiar with, midfielder Callum Riley. He arrived. What can the O's expect from him this season?
He's an interesting one. I could never work out what his role sort of was for us. So he'd play box to box, but then sometimes he'd be using a deep line role. He'd always have a goal in him, so he could always bring the ball forward and strike one into the top corner, for example. I remember he scored one just like that against Saturn United during his first season with the club. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they use him. I think, personally speaking, in my opinion, I think that he's better in a more advanced role, more box to box. He's definitely got an engine on him, and he's obviously got goals in him, as I've just mentioned. So if they can use him there, I think they'll get the best out of him. And he's more than good enough to play at League Two level. And I'm sure he had maybe a couple of Desiree offers from League One. So it's a bit surprising to see him drop down that low. But yeah, I think box to box would be the best role for him.
Okay, we'll see if Kenny Jackett agrees in the coming weeks and months. Another sign they made towards the end of the window, Alex Mitchell arriving on loan from Millwall, a young defender. This is a good opportunity for him, Billy. Yeah,
really, really good opportunities for him coming in at what you expect to be the top end of League Two this year. And as a 19-year-old, that's a really good environment to be in. I think with Millwall, he could continue playing and within the youth side and sort of get experience that way, but to come to a team who we've all spoke about on here, expect to be competing in and around the playoffs and around sort of the promotion places as well, it's going to be an exciting move for him. And hopefully if he can get the football that he's intending to play, and that it'll be a really good move for all parties. And I think it works well with the fact that Dan Happ, he was injured during the warm-up on Saturday, meaning that a player like Mitchell coming in to take that role next to the experienced Omar Beckles is a really good sign.
Yeah, we'll have to see how he gets on at Orient. Right, keeping with League Two, get to our final London club of this quick transfer deadline day roundup, and it's Saturn United. And the big signing for Sutton at the end of the window was the re-arrival of Isaac Olafay on loan from Millwall. Obviously, he was there last year, helping them win promotion, 14 goals in 37 league games. Chris, this should really be a real boost for Sutton as they look to get their first win in League Two sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. I managed to see bits and pieces of him during the last part of last season when obviously Sutton secured promotion. And like a real prospect, good at running the channels, got a bit of turn of pace about him. He's also physical as well. So he's got all the qualities that you'd want in a striker, particularly at League Two level, and obviously for the future if he ever gets to play in the Championship for Millwall. So yeah, great signing for Sutton, and Wimbledon have got them in the Papa John's Trophy, so I'm hoping to go down and see him in action. Should be decent.
Yeah, it should be a good game. Okay, that wraps up our little look back at deadline day and the window in general for the London clubs. Let's move on. And we have had another comment coming in from Matt House, who actually joined us during the Fulham fan takeover show yesterday, asking, is Fabio Carvalho off to Barcelona? Now, this relates to a Football League World exclusive that we ran earlier on today, in fact, so it's good that he's read it, first of all. He's not definitely off to Barcelona, no. What we've been told is that Barcelona have just been in contact with Fulham, just asking for a situation. Obviously, he's not yet signed a contract at Fulham. As you'd expect, a player of his level and ability, plenty of top clubs have obviously asked about, what the deal is there. Is he going to be leaving? But Fulham is still very, very confident of getting him to sign a new contract and obviously keeping him around and at least preserving his value and that kind of thing. So nothing to worry about yet, or so we're told, and we can't see him going to Barcelona just yet. The likelihood is that he will sign a new Fulham deal sooner rather than later. And finally, we'll just look ahead to the weekend's action. Chris, your boys are in action. Wimbledon playing at home to Oxford United. Should be a tough game, really, for the Dons. Obviously, Oxford started really well. What are you expecting from this one? And obviously, Carl Robinson, what kind of reception can he perhaps look forward to or not at Plough Lane this weekend?
Well, for a start, he's not going to get a good reception. I know that much. He never does, and I think he wouldn't be expecting a good one either. So that's all that's said on that one. In terms of us getting a result, I'm confident because we're yet to taste defeat with the fans in at Plough Lane, and the atmosphere's been rocking for the last two home games, and I fancy our chances against Oxford. I know they've started well, but we've shown obviously last weekend with the draw at Ipswich that we're not to be taken lightly. It doesn't matter how much money you spent in the summer, how good a calibre of player you've got. We will match you as best we can, and I know that the boys will give it 100% effort. So yeah, I'm confident that we can get a result. But if I was to sort of predict the score, I reckon it could be another draw. So I'm going to go for 1-1.
Yeah. Well, you probably take a point maybe against the team that's obviously started very well, being playoff contenders, the last few seasons.
Yeah. I don't see, a draw wouldn't be too bad, but I'd love a win. We're due a win at home in front of the fans, and hopefully it'll come in.
Okay, we'll see what happens this weekend with Wimbledon against Oxford. Just dropping into League Two, Leyton Orient are away at Newport County. Obviously, Orient got a very good win at home to Bradford last weekend. Newport's sitting 15th, but similar to Oxford in many ways in League One. Newport have been regular playoff contenders in League Two over the last few seasons. Billy, this could potentially be a good opportunity for Orient to send out another marker after their win over Bradford last weekend to show that they're very much in the top 7 mix and potentially looking even higher in the league.
Yeah, as you say, there's every reason to be confident for this one. Orient, as we've said, started the season off really well against some really tough opponents as well. When you take a look at who they've actually played so far, I think they'll continue their run at the moment. Newport haven't started as strongly as they have in recent years. As you said before, they've been regularly in the playoff positions. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, Leyton Orient. Okay,
we're backing the O's to get another important win. And finally, we just come to Saturn United's fixture as well. They're away at Colchester, obviously still looking for that first elusive win this season in League Two. They were looking quite on track to get against Oldham last time out, but then the Latics turned it around late on. Chris, Colchester are a mid-table team at the moment, at least in League Two. It's probably going to be quite a tough test, would you say, for Sutton this weekend?
Yeah, I feel really sorry for him. Obviously coming up from the conference, it's never going to be easy in the first season, and they're so unlucky against Oldham, to be honest. And going away to Colchester isn't the easiest place to go. And obviously they just got Armando Dobra from Ipswich, who's a really good sign for them. So they'll be feeling positive they can get a result over the U's. But yeah, no, Sutton have just got to try and pick up the odd point here and there away from home, and then I think their results at Gander Green Lane will be what keeps them up ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, overall that performance against Oldham was pretty good last weekend. It just sort of let them down towards the end of the game, so they'll obviously be hoping to learn from that in the weeks and months ahead. Okay, that wraps up the EFL London Roundup show for this week. Chris and Billy, thank you very much for joining me. people watching, if you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, that'd be greatly appreciated. And we'll catch you next week, this time next week. Speaking to you then.